Digimon Adventure episodes 9 and 10 are effectively a two-parter that introduce ultimate levels, or Kanzentai, first with Metal Tyrannomon, and then with our first look at the new series version of Metal Greymon. The events of these two episodes kick off with Ogremon being scolded by his overseer for failing to stop the kids. We've previously seen him a few times, the last time being when Greymon and him squared off. Ogremon is given one last chance to capture the children, and he sets off, eventually encountering them, finding Taichi and Agumon, and demanding a rematch. Their battle kind of rules. It's full on Dragon Ball Z in a bunch of ways. We literally get a beam struggle, and we also get this very Goku-like scenario where through the fight, Ogremon and Greymon start to get more intense, but also start to respect each other and enjoy the fight more and more. It's looking suddenly like it's less about revenge for Ogremon, and more just about having a great battle. But things are suddenly interrupted by Metal Tyrannomon, who blasts basically everyone. Ogremon is furious that his fight was cut short, and also about the realization that Metal Tyrannomon is effectively looking like his replacement. The lighting here is really gorgeous in these night scenes lit up by flames. It felt like a OVA movie in some ways. Metal Tyrannomon represents our first look at Ultimate, aka Kanzentai Digimon, and I love how this series makes the power level difference super clear. There is no chance of a champion standing up to an ultimate here. Greymon is just one-shotted. Ogremon has this incredible heel turn, and he defends the kids. He carves out a huge path for them with this fist, telling them to head straight. They escape while he makes a final standoff against Metal Tyrannomon, and it is the last we see of him. Episode 10 starts out, and we catch up with the chosen children, the Digidestined, who have been hiding out in a cave. Agumon wakes up from a long nap, and in a really heartbreaking question, he asks where Ogremon is. You can tell he loved their fight, and by the end of it, he was starting to see Ogremon as a real friend. The kids plan their next steps, how they were going to get out of this cave, while the Soundbirdmons and Metal Tyrannomon are all hunting them. Taichi and Agumon volunteer to be distractions in hopes of getting a second chance at facing Metal Tyrannomon. While Tai and Agumon go after Metal Tyrannomon and kind of make a distraction, the team heads straight, but they ultimately are blocked by this poison mist. I want to call it a river, and they just ultimately realize that there's no way of pushing forward here, so they pause and reflect while we get to watch Tai and Greymon take on Metal Tyrannomon. Agumon evolves into Greymon, they square off against Metal Tyrannomon, and there's no chance of them winning, but they keep going after him. And again, in this very video game boss battle type of way, where Tai and Greymon time their attacks between the boss's moves. They charge in between blasts on the arm, but they forget that Metal Tyrannomon has a second arm. Take two, they slide through his legs, kind of like Ganon in Ocarina of Time, but no arms this time, but they get smacked away by the tail. Next, there's this Shadow of the Colossus climb up Metal Tyrannomon, only to get blasted, and it sends Greymon and Tai towards the other kids, letting the A-plots and the B-plots converge. And now we get this final push where they say, we're absolutely not going to lose, we have to do this, and we get to see the birth of Metal Greymon, and he is kind of horrifying in a way that I just love. You get the usual cool animation here that we've seen from the champion level Digivolutions, but when he emerges from it, he's just so creepy in a way that I love. It's like we got Skull Greymon and Metal Greymon in one go here, and he's also way bigger than Greymon was. If you're using Metal Tyrannomon as a measure, he was looking like an ant before. Now he's basically almost the same size as Metal Tyrannomon. He goes nuts, uses the Gigastorm Blast, and just eradicates Metal Tyrannomon, but not the mist that was blocking their path. Metal Tyrannomon is defeated. Agumon is this little tired chunky boy again. It's very cute, and when Tai goes in for a hug, Agumon tells him that I hope Ogremon was watching, and I was suddenly hit with all the feels. It was the sweetest conclusion to this whole Ogremon friendship. So although Metal Tyrannomon is defeated, the poison mist is still here, and there's really no way to go forward. So the team just has to split to cover more ground, and maybe one of them can find a path forward. The team composition technically remains a mystery now as the episode ends, but the preview does show Matt, Sora, and Joe are one team, so we can kind of fill in the blanks for who Team 2 is. Also note that the teaser said something about Yamato protecting Sora. In Japanese it said Sora Tachi, which is like Sora and friends, but notice the emphasis on Sora. It's not Joe Tachi or Gabumon Tachi. So is this emphasis on Sora more of this sort of Matt-Sora shipping? We'll see next week, I guess. So my verdict on these two episodes, ultimately, I'm going to start sounding like a broken record here, but I just continue to be so impressed with this show. I remember thinking when episode 1 was airing, before I watched it, that it's going to be alright. It's definitely going to be a kid show, and as a Digimon fan, I might find something to enjoy, but it just won't be for me, the adult Digimon fan, and I keep getting proven wrong. I keep loving this show. These two episodes really work as a two-part intro to Ultimate Level, so I'm glad that I paused on episode 9 and I reviewed 9 and 10 this way as a two-parter. The Ogremon sacrifice sacrifice was a well-needed push that helped justify why Tai and Greymon were so determined to take down Metal Tyrannomon. And again, Agumon's line at the end about, "I hope Ogremon was watching," it was just so beautiful. It was such a nice bow at the end of this two-parter. And now that Ultimate Evolutions are on the table, I think it's safe to assume the next batch of episodes will be about debuting the various Ultimates, starting with Yamato, Matt, and Gabumon's Ultimate. Both episode 9 and 10 are getting an 8 from me. I think they boost each other up. Just as an aside, this is one of my bullet points here, kind of just free-flowing, but because of the similarity of the missiles Metal Tyrannomon and Metal Greymon use, when Greymon was gripping onto Metal Tyrannomon's missile, part of me had this crazy thought that maybe 2020 Digimon Adventure was going to do evolution different, more like in Tamers when Renamon would kind of gobble up other Digimon's data to get stronger. I thought maybe somehow Ultimate would come about from compiling another Digimon's data or something. It looks like that is not the case, and I'm not even certain I would have loved it that way, but I'll leave it up to you. Would you have liked something more complex like that, where, Ultimate or other Digimon evolutions come from somehow absorbing other Digimon or their powers, or do you prefer it just the standard, traditional power-up evolutions? Let me know what you think in the comments. Other than that, I'm excited for the next set of Ultimate evolutions, and I hope that you guys stick around to hear my review, so just subscribe if you can, and we will get through Digimon Adventure 2020 together. Again, this show is just on a roll. Hopefully it only gets better from here.